But we really mean it when we say we love to hear from you and we love to answer your questions during our Bring It On segment. And today, some of you have sent questions in regarding the history of CBN. So, Pat, I'm going to start with Steve, who says, if you could give advice to a young Pat Robertson in his first year of ministry, what would it be?
I think the best advice I could ever give is to trust God. God is absolutely faithful. He absolutely will do what he says. And if you surrender your life to him, he will not disappoint you. So trust God above all else.
You know, there were so many times when you had to trust God where it didn't look like what you were praying for and hoping for was going to happen. And we hear your kids say over and over and over again that the most striking memory they have of you is in your wingback chair in the Word every day. Is that what sustained you during those times?
Of course it was. It was prayer day after day. But maybe I just didn't have better sense. I don't know.
No, well, then we're thankful for your lack of it, right?
All of those crises, maybe I wasn't aware of how bad things were.
This is Alan, who says, what are some of the most amazing moves of God that you've witnessed at CBN over the years?
Well, I think the greatest move of God was in 1965 when we were having a telethon. And at the end of the telethon, God moved in. I mean, he moved in and sent revival to this area. And then we began to pray for people, and there were dramatic healings taking place all over the area. I mean, it was just marvelous things that happened. And I think that was the start of the 700 Club program. It was the 700 Club telethon. And that, as much as anything else, was the, highlight. There have been many, many other times. Perhaps one of the great programs was when we cut on our satellite dish and brought in a feed from Israel, and we had a program on the Mount of Olives that we were bringing from the Mount of Olives to here, to around the nation. It was an incredible experience.
Yeah. This is Angela, who says, you've interviewed so many people over the years. Who have been some of your most memorable guests?
Well, you saw Ronald Reagan, and that, of course, couldn't help but be memorable. A wonderful man. I miss him so much. I really miss Ronald Reagan. But he was a guest. Interestingly enough, Ferdinand Marcos of the Philippines, he was a dictator and he did all kinds of bad stuff, but he was a very smart man, and it was wonderful to talk to. Another interview that has been a standout for me was when I interviewed Zhu Rongji. I don't know if I interviewed him on camera, but I interviewed him and talked to him, and we kind of became good friends. And he was Prime Minister of China, and so there've been many, many others.
You know, we saw Billy Graham as he was the keynote speaker at the opening of our corporate headquarters here. But one of my most memorable things is the two of you walking along the wall as it came down. That was quite a moment, wasn't it?
Of course it was. Of course it was. And Billy is one of the great heroes of the faith, and is a dear friend, and I admire him tremendously as he's 91 years old, still going.
This is Scotty, who says, Pat, as one of TV's longest-running programs, I'm sure there have been times that things have not gone according to plan. Of all 50 years of broadcasting, what are the funniest 700 Club moments that you recall?
Well, back in the early days, we had to improvise. It was something. And we had our children's program involved a little bear. And the little bear had a squeaker behind him, and the host would talk to the bear, and he'd push the squeaker, and the bear would squeak. That was how he talked. So we decided we were going to send the bear on two missions. The first is we sent him on a submarine under the sea. And in order to shoot the picture, we put the camera on a goldfish bowl and put Mr. Pingo behind and so it looked like the fish was swimming in. Yeah, that was his name. And the audio man would blow on a straw into a glass and go blah, blah, blah. You get the bubbles, you know? That was number one. Number two, we decided to send Mr. Pingo to the moon when the people were shooting to the moon.
And how did you accomplish that?
Well, we had a big explosion in the studio. And then we had a little thing that brought him down into the sandbox, and there he was on the moon. And the studio was so full of smoke, we had a choir that came on afterwards, and the people were coughing and choking. You know, but these are two things. There are many others.
You can see why we love technology here so much.
Well, you have more fun when you have to improvise. The guys today they'd freak out if we did anything like that. And Dee Dee's show, you know, by the way, she had a show. We only had one camera. So in order to get a different angle, we would dip to black and then turn the camera to a mirror, and the mirror would show her on the side. So we had a front shot and a side shot. So it looked like we had two cameras.
Wow.
Very creative.
How long did you have one camera?
Longer than you'd like to think.
Yeah, wow. Amazing.
Okay,
this is Charlie who says, how would you finish this sentence? If I knew then what I know now, I would have...
I would not have made about 3 or 4 really major personal investments where I lost my shirt. If I knew then what I know now. All right.
Save that money. Okay, this is Leona who says, Pat, you always seem so energetic. How do you stay so young?
Well, I guess I chose my ancestors well. But seriously, I look after my health. I eat a fairly balanced food, and I do exercise. Not as much as I should, but I exercise. But it's every day seeking the Lord. Mm-hmm. And when you roll your cares over on the Lord, you don't carry the stress. And, you know, I'm a very forgiving person. I just cannot hold grudges to save myself. I just don't do it. And so I have a happy disposition, and I trust the Lord. But every day I have to talk to the Lord. I have to read the Bible, pray, and see what He has to tell me. And, you know, morning by morning, new mercies I see.
Amen. But you have been one of the most disciplined people I've known as far as following a consistent eating regimen that's really solid and working out regularly. I mean, that's a key thing. I mean, you don't accept less than being in good shape.
But more than anything, I couldn't start a day without praying. I just could not start a day without spending time with the Lord, and I think that's important.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Douglas says, Pat, it is such a blessing to see Gordon on the 700 Club and 700 Club Interactive. How's the rest of the Robertson family doing, and what are they up to? You know, we saw your kids all speaking in that piece earlier in the program, but talk a little bit about what they each do.
I have 4 wonderful children. My oldest son, Tim, has 5 children, and 2 of them are married.
Right.
And that we have a great-grandchild. Tim is a businessman. He was head of the International Family Entertainment. He's involved in real estate and other civic activities. But I think his major concern is being a good father, and he is a good one. He loves the Lord. He's married a girl who loves Jesus, and
Fabulous,
together they brought up children. Then my daughter Ann has got 3 great kids. They all love the Lord. She's working here. My daughter Elizabeth is in Dallas. She has 3 children, one of whom is getting married. One's graduated from college, and the other one's graduating this spring. So they all love the Lord.
Yes.
Every single one. I have 14 grandchildren. They all love Jesus.
That's got to be wonderfully satisfying.
Well,